Family. Family in law school. I'm a 1L. I'm fresh. I'm into my second week now, so I can't speak with certainty about the entire experience. But when you get thrown into the fire at first, you're definitely going to feel overwhelmed. And it doesn't matter what your undergrad was, what your experience was. It's something that's not like anything you've done before. Even if you've done master's level work, if you've been to med school, something like that, maybe you're ready for what's about to happen, but it's just different. It doesn't mean that it's any harder than anything you've learned if you've had some poli-sci classes or some philosophy classes. You may be familiar with the Socratic method, but it's not just the way that law school is taught, it's also just the amount of work you get. And I'm sure with anything it gets better with time. You learn how to more effectively brief and other things, but it doesn't leave time for much, and that includes family. So if you're in law school, don't forget about them. If you're thinking about law school, make sure those relationships are strong now, because just the nature of the game, they are going to see a lot less of you and hear a lot less from you. But just if you can make a quick phone call, 5 minutes on the way to or from school, to friends or family, those help not just them, they help you too. One big thing is, if you forget about your family and you neglect them, they're not the only ones that are going to suffer. Law school is one of those things that you can't do on your own, and that support network you definitely need to have. The first thing is you're not in undergraduate anymore. So it just depends on what kind of student you were in undergraduate. If you were the person that's the crammer, you do just enough to get by, and you make B's and A's because you can cram and regurgitate. Law school is not for you. You might be able to luck out and remember something, but in law school, everything is dependent on one final exam. Most law schools across the country subscribe to the single test method. You will synthesize and you'll take everything you've learned throughout your entire year and you will apply that to one final exam. So trying to cram for that with 5 classes, I do not suggest it. So just come into law school knowing that you need an entirely different mindset. It doesn't even matter if you were a good student, it's still going to take some getting used to. Now, if you were a good student and you've got a good study ethic and you're good at scheduling, it's going to definitely make things easier on you. But in law school, your teachers are not responsible for teaching you the law. You're responsible for teaching yourself every bit of law. Now, your teachers will help facilitate that. Your teachers are there to teach you how to think like a lawyer and how to analyze like a lawyer, because while law may change, the skills that they impart upon you will not change. They'll help you take whatever the law might be 20 years from now, sift through that, and get the relevant law of the time. Because the law now is not going to be the same tomorrow, it's not going to be the same 20 years from now. I mean, things like Obamacare, for instance, Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to call it, Obamacare for short. Whether you like it or not, it's happening. And we're not going to get into that discussion, that's not what this is. It's just to show you that in the next 4 to 5 years, every year, thousands of new regulations and mandates are going to roll out. So you could learn the entire 1,800-page bill, and it wouldn't do you any good a year or two from now, because you're going to have new rulings, new precedents. And, I mean, there's just no way. So law school is not about learning the law, it's about learning how to think like a lawyer. It's also a professional school. If you're a nurse in undergrad or an engineer, you kind of maybe can understand this more. You are learning the specific skills right now that you're going to use for the rest of your life. It's not like, a communications degree where you learn tools but not necessarily specifically the skills. It's very different. It's important, and it might seem simple, but just know that coming in, it's not going to be your normal, sleep in late, show up, miss class, because they frankly don't care. And they shouldn't care, because when you get out in the professional field, a little bit about my background is I was in law enforcement for 8 years. I was a political consultant for 2. So am I brand new to law school? Yes. But am I familiar with how the judicial system works? Absolutely. And if you miss a court date, the judge isn't going to care why. They're not going to care if your dog was sick. They're just going to, if you didn't file the correct motions, then that's that. The bottom line is that you're responsible for making sure you're in class and you're learning that material.